Hello, everyone. It's Mara Sievers, Pilates Encyclopedia, here today with Teresa Julian from Rewind Pilates in Lynchburg, Virginia. Hi, Teresa. How are
Good
you?
morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great. It's so great to have you.
Yes, I'm glad to be here.
Yay. So,
Thank you.
tell us a little bit about your studio. How long have you been in business? What are you teaching? And so on and so forth.
Okay. We're in Central Virginia, Lynchburg, Virginia. Um, we're I've been at my current location about 3 years. For 15 years, I had a home studio, and then shortly after COVID, I moved out of my house and decided that I would expand because it was a good time to just, make the changes, right?
Yep.
And so I was in my studio at home probably 15 years before I did this. I'm a recovering accountant. This is sort of my encore career, what I really always wanted to do.
Nice.
But teaching movement has always been my passion. So I guess I've been teaching some kind of movement since my teens, and we won't talk about how long ago that is. And I've been a fitness instructor. I was looking at my certification the other day, 44 years.
Wow.
It's crazy. I'm like, wow. But I got my first Pilates cert in 2007 with SOT. And then I did a second one in 2012, which is Polestar. And then that's when I got my NCPT certification. And now I'm doing the third one with you, which is wonderful, by the way.
Awesome.
Going through it with my teacher trainees. And
Oh, that's great.
I just always like to stay learning. And it's been a very good experience for me to and go through it with them too. So
Yeah, that's
um,
fantastic. That's great. It's
yeah,
it's good to
we're
keep things fresh and to remind
you
yourself. I
bet.
mean, we
And
we know things, but it's just so good to read something that, yeah, I remember that. That's such a great
yeah,
reminder. And then we can share it with our
yeah,
students again, right?
right. Review the anatomy, review the principles, yeah, the review is just wonderful. But we're a small studio. There's three of us here, myself, and two other teachers. They are reformer. Um, one of them's reformer trained and mat trained. The other one's reformer certified and mat certified. So this is an opportunity working with you to get them fully comprehensively trained, which is what they wanted to accomplish with their Pilates career. So that was my first and foremost, reason I wanted to find someone that could be a partner to do teacher training.
And
And
I'm just going to quickly explain that you are a partner or a host studio for the Pilates Encyclopedia Teacher Training Program. We're going to go
right,
into that in just a little bit, just so that people understand what you're
gotcha,
talking about.
gotcha.
Yeah,
Yes,
good.
yes, yeah. We have three reformers, two Cadillacs, four chairs, and all the prompts at this point. So we're set up to get the comprehensive training gone. We primarily teach privates, duets, trios. It just seems to be our niche, in terms of where we feel as instructors we're the most effective and are doing the most good. As I said, this is a bit of an encore career for me, something I've always wanted to do. So we feel like that's our niche. With the equipment, we do have all the equipment. So we do offer a couple of mat classes. One of them is evening based, which is stretch, more stretch, more kind of, wind down the day. Um, and then we offer a morning class um, that is mat based Pilates and with all the props and all the things.
Do you
So
have two different spaces? So you're in
I do,
your equipment
yeah.
room right now, I'm assuming,
Yeah,
and
I'm in the one. This is one of my rooms. I have totally between the two floors, I have close to 2,000 square feet. Upstairs is just the plain, it's just the whole top of the building. It's and we have math classes up there, and I have room
Gotcha.
for about 8 students.
Nice.
So I try to limit it to 6 to 8 people, um, and that so that we can truly be effective, with
Yeah.
teaching
So
Pilates.
you offer privates, duets, and trios in on equipment and mat classes. So you don't offer the ever popular group reformer classes.
Don't know. For us, a trio is a group of four. It's a lot. If you're really, trying to get your hands on people and trying to really teach them the repertoire and really trying to, it's a lot. We get a lot of requests for that. Don't
Mhm.
could you do group performer? And I'm like, well, I know that that's where some of the current um
Yeah, the
trends
trend. Yeah,
trends
absolutely. Yeah,
are.
yeah.
But I've been doing this for a long time, and I think that's going to come and go in the group fitness, just like all things come and go in the group
Absolutely.
fitness
Yeah. And
world.
and so I mean I like that you know what you do well, and it takes two, right? So it takes the clients that are being served by what you have to offer and
Right,
what you want to offer, right? So if
right,
you as the owner or your team or whatever, if you don't enjoy group reformer classes, or if you don't find that you're helping your clients with them, what's the point in offering them, you know? And there
right.
might be, I don't know about your area and your competition, so to speak, if there are other Pilates studios in the area, but when I had my studio in Concord, New Hampshire, which was smallish town too,
Yeah.
and I was more aligned with like what you offer. Like I was very focused on the individuality in
Mm-hmm.
my teaching. But there was another studio and they did pretty much, group reformer classes. And it was so different. And, clients sort of found their way to the kind of studio that they enjoyed and that they um,
Exactly.
were able to get help from. And so I never saw them as competition at all because it's like
Nope.
we are doing something so completely
So
different.
different.
And
Yes.
people who enjoy coming to us are not going to enjoy going there, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And if somebody doesn't like
Exactly.
us, then I'm happy to refer to the other studio because, they just offer what they offer. And so I think it's mostly important that what we do it well,
Yeah.
and that we have the clientele who wants what we have to offer, right? So it's
Yeah.
it's just about aligning it and matching it up. It's not about better or worse.
Right. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I
Great.
agree.
That's
I agree.
awesome.
Yeah.
So why have you decided to become a partner studio for the Pilates Encyclopedia Teacher Training Program?
Well, I think I think the biggest thing is just the need for instructors. I was
Yeah.
listening to a podcast from NCPT, and they think that there's less than 5,000 of us in the United States. That's what the treasurer of the um
Certified Pilates teachers?
mhm. Well, NCPT.
Yep. Yep.
NCPT. Yes, there's less than 5,000 of those folks. And so I just think that we need more instructors. That was my biggest need. I need it in my studio. I turn people away all the time because I don't have, um, you know, instructors to do it. We're all busy. Um,
Very common story, by the way. And you might know this, but also everybody who's listening or watching, very like I talk to so many Pilates studio owners, and they almost all of them have the same problem that they have too many clients and not enough staff.
yeah,
So that was also one of my main motivations of offering this studio and making it possible for smaller studios maybe that are more remote or something to be able to offer their own in-house training so that they can have more teachers which can help who can help more people, right?
people. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. And I have the space,
Yeah.
and I have the times.
Yeah.
So if I can get people up and running,
Yeah.
we could do a little bit more, and the footprint would be a little bit bigger in the community, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
So,
absolutely.
and
Have
it's
you
needed.
yeah, have you tried other, like before you became a partner with us, have you tried other routes of teacher
Yes,
training? And I'm not
yes.
asking of like if they were better or worse or anything like that. More like how effective was it? Like how did it work out?
Yeah, I interviewed probably three or four people, um, trying to find the right fit. Um, and um, you know, um, I'll put it like one of my teacher training says, what you have done there is incredibly organized, incredibly
Thank you.
organized. Yes, and then it it pulls it all together, because I think when I was looking at some of the other platforms, like I would kind of go down a wormhole because there was just all kinds of things in there, but not organized. Yours is. So your framework to me was the number one thing. It's going to make it easy for me because they can just follow right down that list, and then I can interject and send them handouts. I can say, okay, we're going to meet on Friday and we're going to talk about this part, and that. So it organized it for me. That organization is great. The content is just exactly what we need, knowing about the human body, and really, if you want to take a deep dive into a subject because it interests you, you have that down at the bottom of the modules. But you can also just shoot right through it if you're, so I just think that it was just scary organized, as one of my instructors says. This is organized, and I just know how much work that
Yeah.
was. Some
Yes,
of
it
the
was.
other ones are just weren't quite as organized, and so the framework's good. The one thing that I didn't really think about too was that it's me interacting more.
Yeah.
We tend to kind of all have our students have our schedules and we do our things. But now as a team, we're interacting more and saying, did you read about that? Did you talk about that? Thought about that. It's been very good for
That's
bringing us
awesome. I love
together
hearing
as
that.
a team.
Yeah. That's
Mm-hmm.
and when you work at the studio, something that I hear from my members a lot is that they work at the studio, but none of the other instructors like talks to them, or they have nobody on the team that they can ask. And sometimes there's like this competitive thing going on amongst the instructors because one instructor
Right.
doesn't want to tell the other instructor their tricks
Right.
because then they might get better than them and students might like them
Right.
better and go to their
Yes. Yeah.
classes
Who
and then
knew?
they lose their
Right.
clients. And but we can't thrive, we can't learn and improve in an environment like that, right? We have to support each other because the better we all are, the more people will benefit from Pilates, right?
Of
The better their
course.
experience will
Of
be, no
course.
matter
And
what it
then,
looks like.
yeah, and having you as that third party,
Yeah.
if there's something that they don't want to ask me because they
Yeah.
think they should know,
Yeah.
or,
Yeah.
something they want that they just really don't want the other instructors or things to, know that they're thinking about it.
Yeah.
Just, that's any learning environment. You're always afraid to ask sometimes the most obvious question, you know,
Yeah.
the one that
Absolutely. Yeah.
everybody is thinking about. Having you, there, and your responses. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
they get answers back within, a pretty short period of time.
Yeah.
So, and then
Definitely.
sometimes you have to run around and all of the questions all the time. Just plop that in the module there where you have it, and then they keep going, you
Right.
know. So,
Excellent. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
that's a great way of um so it's a little bit like an apprenticeship program, right? So it's not I mean, first of all, you as a host, you can sort of design the program any way you like, sort of. So
Yes.
if you wanted to do weekend modules, you could do that, but you don't have to, right? So it
Right.
can be done one person at a time. How many trainees do you have currently?
I
Quite
have
a few.
5.
That's amazing. That's
I
wonderful.
know.
That helps, right? Because they motivate each other and that definitely helps. But if somebody wanted to, they could do this training just with one person, which is, which you can't do with many other teacher training programs, sort of. But then what I've heard also from a friend of mine who did an apprenticeship like that was that sometimes you're isolated and you only learn from this one person, right? So
Right.
this way with this collaboration, what I love is like I can teach them one thing right through the platform. I teach them the theory and stuff, and but then they have your perspective as well. And not only to like you, I'm sure you explain things differently than I explain things, right?
Of
So
course.
so
Yeah.
people hear the same content explained in different ways, which is
Several
beneficial
times.
because they with different learning styles, right? And I have trouble like I speak for myself, but I have real trouble understanding certain when people explain something in a certain way.
Yeah.
Um, like a lot of people explain the thing by using the same words. Like you explain hip flexion by saying hip flexion, and that doesn't
Yeah.
work,
It's because
right?
it's elastic, because it's elasticity. Elastic. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 exactly, exactly like that. So
Yeah.
if you
It's
hear things
elasticity, elasticity, right? Well, how is that different from flexibility? Right.
exactly.
So,
So if you have several sources to have, or like I've read this, people can come to you and they say, I've read this article about this and this, but I'm just not quite getting it. Can you explain it to me one more time? And then you can do it in person, hands-on, or whatever, however
right.
you can explain it in addition to what they're learning. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And
I love that there's this
it
collaboration.
introduces our culture too,
Yes,
because
100%.
I've had one instructor that came here, just, it just would, we couldn't get her into the culture. She was
Yeah,
certified by somebody else. She
yeah,
had a different style. The others were looking and going, that's not what we do,
yeah,
and I'm going, I know, but it's different, and she knows her clients. So just, but introducing somebody into your culture, and you can also see your clients, what your avatar might
yeah,
be, you know. I mean, if you're interested in training athletes, or if you're interested in training, active agers, whatever, you can see when you're here what's here, you know.
absolutely. And so
And
much about being a Pilates teacher is, or being a good Pilates teacher is outside of the actual teacher training. Like the way that you communicate with clients besides cueing. I'm not talking about cueing exercises. I'm talking about how do you just talk to them and how do you sell a package? And I know that most Pilates teachers are hate marketing and hate selling and all of that. But
yes,
right, if you're doing this for a job, even if it's not your own business, but if you're a teacher, you are going to have to ask your clients about their next session or sell them another package or
yes,
something like that, right? That's just the reality, and people hate it. And I always say the best selling happens in your session. If you're teaching a good session, then the selling is totally like is a non-issue because people are going to want to come back again, right? So knowing that already helps because it takes the pressure off and then it makes it less awkward but
yes,
it's just one example for how caring for your clients and just interacting with them, you can absorb that. It's like osmosis, right? You can absorb that by being part of the daily
exactly.
happenings at the studio, which you don't notice so much if you're always on the client's side. If you're never, if you only show up on the weekends and then you go
Right.
somewhere and then you drive back home and you do your practice hours at home or something, and you're never
Exactly.
stepping into the ownership of I am part of the team, and
Yeah.
I'm stepping now on the other side. First I was the client, now I'm the team member, and this is how we do things here. And so there's so much good that happens, I think, from that prepares trainees for the real scenario of teaching. I think a little more than an isolated,
Yeah,
training environment.
yeah. And in your framework, you're requiring observation, which is
Right.
someone's just going back and forth and then, getting their training done by somebody else in a different training program. They're not seeing how things are going on in your
Yes.
studio, you know,
Yes.
and that is so important, how we greet people, how
Yes.
we, introduce them to each other, how, what's the
Right.
vibe of
Right.
the studio, right?
Exactly.
And you're right, right? The selling doesn't have to be hard at all because
No.
people become, um, you know, part of your community, and that's the big thing with that. We're training teachers, but it's not just this method. It's the method, Pilates, which the process is so incredibly wonderful, right? Just the process, right? And if you can get them in your culture, I mean,
Yeah.
they're going to stay, you know.
Yes. Right. And then your clients also get to know them
Get
along
to
the
know them,
way, which is so
right?
important because it's so much about trust in Pilates, right?
Yeah, they're coming and observing. They're like sessions. I always ask my client, can they come? And they say, oh, sure, yeah. And then they sit there and they tell them things about how it helps them to me to do this, or they become part of the process there, and
Right.
they get introduced to them, and
Right.
and they're always asking, like once they've been in a session, like, how is so and so doing? Is she making
Nice.
progress? Does she want to come back, and watch some of my sessions, that kind of thing. And so,
Yeah.
and it also, it's like, some of them want more sessions and they know I'm up to here.
Yes.
I can't.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, when do you think she'll be doing her teacher training? And so she's got a ready
She already got a
clientele.
wait list. She's not even done
Yes.
with the training and already has a wait
Yeah.
list.
So,
That's
they
amazing.
know, like, I want to get in with that person so I can get,
That's fantastic.
3 times a week or whatever. So,
That's great. Yeah, that's
it is. I
fantastic.
am very blessed with that. But finding somebody to help expand that presence has been critical. I knew that I was at a place where, I'm not going to be able to. I can't work any more hours, and so this is an additional revenue stream. I don't often think about that, but yes, this is. I'm making, you know, um, additional revenue by providing this. Really not a huge investment, in my opinion. So that's been great too. I have a revenue source, right?
Yeah,
Um,
for
and
sure.
something I've always wanted to do is help people, teach them Pilates. So,
Yeah.
and then share what, after being here, going on 20 years.
Yeah.
I hope
Yeah.
somebody will take it over someday, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's being like, yeah, a studio like that becomes really a deep part of the community, right? I remember when I sold my studio, it was like it
Right,
was really important to
right.
me that it keeps going and it continues to be helpful in the community
Yes.
because people have gotten used to it and they wanted to continue their journey.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
hopefully it's going to help with the continuity of this
Yeah.
place. Yeah.
The I just wanted to pick up on the observation real quick because you mentioned that. So as part of a teacher training program, which a lot of trainees when they first start don't realize is that besides the lectures or the weekend modules that many teacher trainings offer, right, there's a lot of extra hours that you have to complete on your own. So when you're being a part of the studio like they are in your studio, then all of that happens at home, right? They're at their home studio. They live close because this is just they would not
Yeah.
take your training unless they already practice there and live close enough.
Right.
So all of the hours they can do that while they're there, they just add an hour before or after or whenever,
Exactly.
they can work around their schedule because we're all busy. Um, and with what I've also heard that with some of the chains and stuff like that of teacher training programs is um, that they travel, you travel someplace, and I did that when I did my Pulsar training,
Me
and I'm
too.
sure it was for
Yeah,
you the
me
same
too.
thing, right? So you travel to I traveled like 2.5 hours or something to the training site, and then I did the weekend modules there. But then for all of the hours, all of the practical hours, and that's hundreds of hours, you what do you do? And I hear that a lot in my Facebook group that people don't know how where are they gonna get all those hours? You can't, that's a huge additional expense and time to, get like hundreds of hours in of practical hours at a different location. You have to drive there, you have to pay for a
See?
room, you have to feed yourself, you have to, it's like there's
Yeah,
you
that's
have
not
loss of
a huge
income,
expense. Yeah,
you can't work, you have to take vacation, whatever. So it's a huge expense and also time effort to do all that.
yes,
So with the smaller, if you're at your home studio, I'm going to call it, then all of that is much more doable, right?
right. And a lot of times that's where you're going to be, right?
Yes,
So,
absolutely. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. That's
yeah,
great.
that's a significance. Travel, food, wear and tear on your car back and forth,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then finding somewhere to teach a mat class or to, all of those things. If you're there in the studio, that's all set for you,
And they
you
can
know.
also help you with that, right? Like if you need to match up, like if you need a volunteer, a lot of people are like, who am I going to teach? I don't have any volunteers. I can't
Okay.
teach my mom every single, 3 times a week to get all the hours
Okay.
in. So you can match people up,
Yes.
you have a network available and you can say, hey, I got some free classes for this trainee who wants to come. And then, so
Right.
I find there's such a win-win-win situation here, right? Like it's a win
Yes.
for you, it's a win for the trainee, and it's a win for me because I am able to share that and we're building a network. So
Right.
any other mentors and host studios um, can communicate amongst each other. So if you need help, you can reach out to another partner studio and say, hey, how are you dealing with this? I'm happy to help partner studios anytime you need, help with anything, but also amongst yourselves because, I'm not in the situation where I'm doing that, but you are. So you might be able to help
Right.
another partner studio somewhere else better with
Yeah, but
some insight, and different experiences. So I love that we're building community on all ends and
bet.
all fronts.
You bet. You bet. Well, and I just have to say that there like so many things you've already thought of.
Yeah.
Things that I didn't think about, like with policies and,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
how to organize everything. I mean, you know, when you go into it, you think, I'm going to do teacher training. And then you go,
Woo!
oh, and then, you send out a, a booklet for me to look at it and say, okay, think about your policy of this. And here's how I think you would do it. And,
Right.
just
So
took a
we
lot
guide
off of
you.
me. I
Right.
could just hit the ground
Good.
running and do
Exactly.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really the teacher
So,
training in a box, right? Like, yeah, so that's
yes.
important that you not just teaching the curriculum or writing a manual. I mean, creating a
Right.
teacher training program is huge, and it's a lot of work. It's also a lot of responsibility, right?
Yeah.
And and yeah, policies are a reality too. So I'm also that people know it's a very flexible policy. So it's a
Sure.
general policy, but then you can fill in certain things that would apply to you, right? Like pricing, for instance, is something that every studio is different, and
Has to do.
so
Yeah.
you can set that and any the hours of observation or like when you would allow people to come into the studio, how you do allow them, all of that you can decide that because again, every single studio is different.
Right. Right. Yeah.
That's great.
Definitely. But if you haven't thought through all of those things,
Yeah, yeah. There's a big learning curve too in terms of that.
it's there.
Yes.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, this is the first time I've gone into it, so I've appreciated that guidance.
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad.
Yeah.
Good. So, what would you say to somebody who is considering offering an in-house teacher training program?
Oh, do it. It's just step into it, do it. This is your program is as close to turnkey as anything that
Awesome.
I've looked at. And I took probably two. I'm a procrastinator, but I'm also a thinker.
Yeah.
I took a long time talking to different people and
Good. You
looking
did
at
your due
through things.
diligence. That's important.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And I needed to do it tomorrow, but I couldn't. I'm like, I don't want this to be a mess
Yeah.
for
Yes.
me and for the people, and I got to find a good partner.
Good.
And it's as close to turnkey as I found. I really liked the um the tone is more like have a positive movement experience with your
Yep.
client. Your and the personalization, which is something that we all um value here at my studio. Um, it was just a really good fit for my
Good.
culture
Mm-hmm.
too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I can also tell you've been a studio, you've
Yeah.
done all of it. So there are little drips and drabs of here's what what it's like,
Yes.
and
Yes.
um, you
Preparing
know,
for the real world. I mean, this is a
ex-
subject that has been like on my mind for such a long time because so
right.
many trainings do not prepare you for the real world. And
They do not.
it's just so sad because you don't know that when you join a teacher training program, right? When you're a
Yeah,
trainee, you want to become a Pilates teacher. You don't know that you're not being prepared, right? And then a lot of
right,
trainees get really upset that they're and rightfully so, that they have completed the teacher training program and didn't learn this and this and this and this and this. And then
right.
they have clients that they're completely unprepared for, right?
Yep,
And that really shouldn't be. And
yeah.
at the same time, I know how much there is to learn about Pilates. It looks very easy in the beginning
In
because
the
the
beginning,
person you're taking from has been doing this for a long time.
a long
So they
time.
make it look easy. It does not mean it's easy. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I've had one of them look at me and go, I did former training and then I came and started teaching, and then nobody looked like the other instructors that I was
Yes.
teaching.
Yes.
And I didn't know how to
Yep.
change that, and I mean it's daunting, when
That's
you get the first real people.
100%. And I was just looking at a different website this morning, and what most teacher training programs teach, or Pilates sites, like any Pilates website or subscription or, membership or whatever, all of them, they show you a video, they give you the general pattern of the movement. So do
Hmm.
this and do that, but nobody talks about details.
Yeah.
And
This is how you teach the exercise. Here's the exercise.
right, this is
You
what
can do
moves.
this prop, and this prop if you need a
Exactly.
modification.
But
Move on.
right, but nobody
Yeah.
tells you what if it doesn't
Work.
happen the way my client looks nothing like the person in the video. What do I do now?
Yeah.
And no, like I don't want to say nobody because there are some good teacher training programs out there.
Hmm.
I
Right.
really don't want to
No, no, no.
talk down on them. There's many good ones, but there is also many that don't prepare you for that. And when you only work with other trainees who are capable bodies and they can do everything, and then all of a sudden you work with somebody who has a
Right.
kyphosis and who cannot move their spine at all, then what do,
What do you
right?
do?
Yeah.
And you have that framework of, we do this, we do the step number one, then we move on to step number two.
Right.
And so you even have a way of progressing a
Yes. So
client
there's
in your
guidance in
method.
it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
you know,
Good.
start with the mobilization, massage work and all of that, and then
Right.
you work them to the next,
Yeah,
step.
you're referring to the four phases of the movement skill.
Four
So that is
phases,
one, right? And
yes.
then we're also giving you, giving a template for how to put the class together. I've heard from people who haven't learned how to put a class together in a teacher training program. So it's like you're learning just exercises and you're learning nothing else, and that's just not the reality of teaching. But
No,
we
no,
could
no.
go on
So,
about this forever and ever. So this is great. Is there anything else you want to share?
um, I want to thank you for, going on this journey. I know how much work um, it is to do what you've done.
Thank you.
And so thank you for providing that. You know, we're small, we're very capable, but you know, it's a big investment to go on a comprehensive training. And then if you've got to also travel and you've got to figure out how, you know, you're going to teach while you're traveling, all of that, this is something is really sorely needed. So I thank
Good.
you for
Yeah,
the
you're
hard work
very
you've
welcome.
done. And
I'm
you're
glad.
always responsive. You're quick
Yeah,
and responsive.
yeah.
And so I have yet to have anyone say, well, she didn't answer that question, or I've never got an answer. I've worked with some other studios. I said, well, you know, send her a question. You know, that's you're training with her. You know,
Hmm.
hear nothing back.
Nothing.
You
Yeah.
know, once the training's over,
Yes.
that's
Yeah. That after the training too. Yes. Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you have a whole community after the training's over. People can still come
Right.
in on your online, you know,
Right.
be a part of that with you.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. And
Absolutely.
I think
Yeah. So
that's
there's
incredible.
right.
Yeah.
So there's, that's something that's important to me to really create a support system for people, no matter where they are. I mean, there's a lot of Pilates teachers in the world that are not in big cities like London or New York
Right.
or Los Angeles, right? Like the
Right.
people who in big cities usually they don't have the problems that we have. Like they can
No.
go to other studios, they can do lots of observation and like there's no shortage in Pilates. But then if you're going into a little bit more areas where maybe you're the only Pilates studio in town,
Yep.
and right,
Yep.
and maybe you have to drive for 2 hours or so to take
Yep.
a lesson.
Yep.
So that's when it gets trickier, and that's where I want to support people because Pilates should be everywhere. It should be in
We
all
hope
of the
so.
nooks and crannies.
That's our goal. That's our
So,
goal.
yeah. So
Bring
at
it to more
least
people.
the
Yes.
online space allows there to be a little community
Yep.
this way without being necessarily physically in each other's presence, but at least mentally and their support. And again, their support for you as the mentor because you could also use support sometimes, right?
Oh,
I'm sure.
definitely. Oh,
And
definitely.
and you support your trainees and I can support your trainees. So there's really this whole network of support going on, which
Yeah.
just makes me happy.
Yeah, and I'm getting an email, you know, every month, and you know, it's helping me keep my
Yes.
skills
Yeah.
up. So because there's just so much in there. I mean, it is an
That's awesome.
encyclopedia.
Yes.
So if I
That's
run
so
into
funny.
something,
You know what? I have to say this real quick because the funniest thing is that once, like, people ask me, "Oh, what's your business about?" and stuff like that. And, I try and explain as best as I can. And then once they look into it, they're saying, like, "Oh, it's just like an encyclopedia." I'm like, yeah, guess why I
that's
call it
right.
that. But I guess
When
people
I'm
don't even,
stuck on something, yeah,
yeah, they
I
can't even
go up there in that search
imagine.
bar and I
Yeah.
put it in there, and you know, go home at night and okay, oh yeah, now I remember that. I'll be
It's
better
just
next
really
time.
funny. Yeah. It's just
But
funny that people don't even can't even imagine that there can be so much information. It
exactly.
could in fact be an
Exactly.
encyclopedia, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
But it's
that's funny.
wonderful. Thank you.
That's great. Oh, thank you so much. Um, that's wonderful. So I really congratulate you on making this happen. Five
Yes. Thank
trainees.
you.
That's fantastic. I keep my fingers crossed for you. Always, if you need something, reach out to me. And
Of course.
thank you for taking the time to share your story a little bit with the world.
Okay. Well, thanks for asking. And thank you
Absolutely.
again for all of your support.
Yeah, you are so welcome.
All right.
If anybody who's listening or watching, if you have any questions, drop them into the comments below or send us an email to teachertraining@pilatesencyclopedia.com. Oh, we also should let people know real quick how they can reach you if in case they have a question for you.
Okay. We're of course in Lynchburg, Virginia, at 3731 Old Forest Road. You can email me at Teresa, Teresa Works, WORKS, one word, Teresa Works, because that's what she does, at AOL.com. Website for Rewind Pilates is T as in Teresa, Julian, Julian, Pilates.com. So,
Okay, awesome. And I'll put all that into the
okay.
comments below and into
Sounds
the
like
post below
great.
as
Great.
well. Great.
Perfect.
Thank you so much, Teresa. Have a great
Thank you,
rest of your
Roz. Good
day.
to talk.
Bye.
Take care.